Yes, not that much. So it's very interesting fact that you said because a lot of people in Brazil only know the Amazon as well.
Really?
If we talk about nature, is okay, let's go to the Amazon. But Pantanal is one biome that is not recognized. It's like an unknown place. People usually don't talk about it because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Wake and Wander, episode 10. My guest today is Luiza Coqueiro. It's been a while since our last episode, but no, I'm not dead. Thank you to those who have reached out. I was on a heater there for a while. March and April got really busy, and I went to 4 countries in the span of 4 weeks at one point, and it was all over the map. I started in Mexico, I went to Austria, I went down to Brazil, which we'll be talking about today, and then I swung up through Canada. And it's just been busy, but life is good. It's doing the writing and the podcasting. Sometimes we just hit little gaps like this. So, welcoming myself back to the podcast. Today's episode, we're going to head down to Brazil, the Pantanal. Super, super cool place. Most Americans have not heard of this. When we think of Brazil, we think of the Amazon, we think of Carnival. But it is a massive country, as we'll discuss in the podcast today. So big, I didn't even realize how big it was. So today's episode, we'll go through a little bit about the size of Brazil and the size of some of its cities. Now, one of those cities is Sao Paulo, and that was where I first landed in Brazil. I flew from Colorado to Dallas, then an overnight flight to Sao Paulo, but that was only the beginning of the journey to reach the Pantanal. If you want to look at your map, the Pantanal region is in the far center or interior of Brazil, so a very difficult place to access directly. So my route took me to Sao Paulo. I had a little bit of a layover there in the early AM, then took another flight to a place called Campo Grande. That's the largest hub close to the Pantanal. You're still about a 3-hour drive from the Pantanal from there. So I ended up spending the night in Campo Grande, so it was 2 full days to even reach the Pantanal. I went down to the Pantanal for an assignment to write about the budding safari scene there. Now that word safari, we usually associate that with Africa. Going out in the Land Rovers, going into the national parks in Africa, seeing these wild animals. The very same concept there is happening in the Pantanal in Brazil. Different ecosystem, different environment, different animals, same concept. You stay at a remote lodge. You're taken out each day on a safari or a wildlife game drive, and you're looking for wildlife. And you have guides on board with you. And throughout your stay there, you're going to have different lectures on the wildlife, on the ecosystems, and it's all nature-based. So we'll get into that with Luiza. Luiza was my guide there for the week. As you'll be able to tell from her voice and her mannerisms, very passionate, very sweet, very fun to be around. And she's going to walk us through what makes the Pantanal special, a little bit of the history about the region. Traditionally, it was for cattle ranching. And now tourism is coming in to try and take a little bit of burden off that cattle ranching, reduce the aspects of cattle ranching a little bit. And there's a very interesting relationship between the cattle ranching and the number one thing to see in the Pantanal, which is the wild jaguar. Many of the cattle ranchers in the past had conflicts with jaguars because jaguars would, at times, attack the cattle. So we'll get into that dynamic, and we'll paint the picture of what it's like to go after these jaguars and what other wildlife you can see. So let's go. Just a reminder, this is the Wake and Wander podcast. I'm Will McGough. This is the podcast. We'll be talking travel, talking to guests from all over the world. Here's episode 10. Do all the guides have that, or just you?
No, because I do my own breakfast, so I like doing this way. But of course, we have food in our restaurants, and sometimes we can eat in there. Only French toasts and butter and milk, but I prefer doing my own sandwich.
Breakfast is the time you just need to spend by yourself.
Exactly.
I feel like all the other meals are great to share, but brekkie, it's just
it's your time.
You gotta have your own thing. Have
your
your
own
coffee,
time.
quiet, maybe a little chit chat.
Exactly.
But not too much.
I love it.
Now I noticed that there's 5 Luizas here, or 6 Luizas. Is that a very common name in Brazil?
Actually, it is, but I never been to so many Luizas in the same place, so it's really awkward for me because I studied in a school it was only me of Luiza. So right now I'm guess okay, everyone calls Lu and everyone shows like, oh my god, it's me or that Luiza, this Luiza. And it's really funny because it is a common name, but I never seen so many Luizas at the same place.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, have you ever been to China?
No.
When you go to China, a lot of people there, they just make up American names just because it's easier than saying their real name. And I thought that's what you guys were doing because when we arrived, it's like, oh, I'm Luisa, I'm Luisa, I'm Lou. It's like, how many are there? But I looked up, I'm just always interested in this stuff, the most popular baby names in Brazil of last year. And I thought
Luiza?
For sure, it wasn't, no.
Okay. I was like, really? I cannot believe it.
I thought it could have been.
Yes.
But the top girl name was, for the second year in a row, Helena.
Helena, Elena in Portuguese. Yes, we have a lot of them.
That's a nice one.
It is.
And then Miguel for 5 years in a row.
Miguel, really? I thought it was Tel, but yes, actually each year
What
changes.
did you think it was? Theo.
Theo, yes.
So it says here, as well as Miguel, popular boy names in Brazil included Ravi, Theo, and Heitor. How do you say that?
Heitor. Heitor, Gael, Ravi, Theo, and Heitor. Gael. Gael is a common name. Like we say that actually, not hipster people, but they like this name. It is more like, I don't know how to say it, but couples who are really interested in arts and that kind of thing do these different names, such as Gael. Gael is actually Spanish, so
the
it's
hippies.
a mix. Yeah, the hippies, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, pretty crazy. 5 years in a row, Miguel.
Miguel, yes.
Well, I hope that you can still find your independence here without having like five other people being called your same name. How long have you worked here?
I've been working for 10 months right now. So I came in here in May of last year, and then I started working as a hostess, like the other Luiza, one of the Luizas working here. So I began as a hostess. So I came in here, just didn't know anything about Pantanal, of where I would be, and then it was completely unknown land for me. So I think that makes more mystical of what happens in here because I didn't know what to expect. And then I was surprised by what happened in here. And of course, my dream was to become a guide. And then when it did really happen, I was so happy, so happy.
Okay, but just to set the stage, we're in the middle of nowhere right now.
Yes.
So it's not a place you stumble by accident.
No, exactly.
So you said you didn't know anything about it. What made you want to come here? How did you
find it? Yeah, this place. So I had a friend. I was actually working at a music, how can I say, a music school. Yes, a school of music. And as a receptionist, so nothing in my area because I did biology. So I was like just lost in the city. And I was
in Sao Paulo?
In São Paulo, yes.
Oh, that's right. You said you were a biologist there.
Yes.
You were working on a rooftop garden or something?
Exactly, before the School of Music.
That seems like an oxymoron. Do you know that word? Like where it's like a biologist in a city. It doesn't make sense.
Yes, doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, so I spent my whole life in the city. I was like really lost. Like I really want to be in nature. So.
But how did you get an interest in biology if you grew up in a city? Like Sao Paulo, for example, just one quick side note. I mean, Americans don't know anything about Brazil because...
Really?
No, because when we think of South America, we more think of the Spanish-speaking countries, I think, because we're more familiar with that. And Americans that know Brazil really only know Rio because they come for Carnival.
Carnival, yes.
They've probably heard of the Amazon rainforest, but not many American travelers are going to come down here. So, I didn't really realize how big Sao Paulo is. I was looking it up. Do you know in terms of the world?
No.
Like it's the 5th largest city in the world.
It's huge.
Yeah, let me pull this up real quick because I was shocked. Yeah, the largest city in the world, Tokyo.
Okay.
Then Delhi, India.
Delhi.
Shanghai, and all those have more than 30 million people. So massive. Then Dhaka, Bangladesh, 23 million, and then Sao Paulo, 22 million, almost 23.
It's huge.
And for us in America, we think New York's a big city, and that has 8 million.
8 million.
8, only 8.
Only 8,
So Sao
only
Paulo
8,
is 3
yes.
times the size of
Oh
New
my
York.
God, I had no idea.
So tell us about
Uh-huh.
life there. It must have been pretty insane.
Yes, it is. It is actually. I love São Paulo. I cannot say that I don't love São Paulo because São Paulo is a city full of everything is happening at the same time. So we get to see, we have a lot of entertainment, and that's what kept me up in the city. So I love going to concerts. We have so many movie theaters, museums. Everything happens in there. So it seems like the city doesn't sleep. So you know that. But it is almost like a concrete jungle. You don't see what keep me kind of suffocated is that we don't see the horizon line. We don't get to see sunset. We don't get to see the sky like such as big cities. But of course, we have the happy and bright side of it. That is what I like it because we get to access everything. We got a lot of good restaurants in there, and I made a lot of friends. So the life is super happy, and we can get access to everything. So it's really easy for.
And you were on a rooftop working on some garden?
Yes, yes, exactly. How I ended up there. So I was looking for a job in biology, and you can imagine that is kind of difficult to work with nature in the middle of a city. We have nature in some parks in there, but that's the only thing. And I just got a job like opportunity that I searched on LinkedIn, and then I found it to work with some plants. So we grew up plants with water, no land at all because we didn't have land on the rooftop of
Aquaponics.
aquaponics exactly,
Okay,
or
cool.
yes. And then I was working there with some educational environment education with children. So I love this part, and I always wanted to be able to give knowledge to people, to teach how, especially children. I love them. So it was a really grateful job. I really like it, enjoy it. But of course, I was not completely happy because all I wanted is to go out of São Paulo and be in the middle of the nature.
Well,
It
you
was my dream.
succeeded because we're
Yes,
here.
definitely.
I mean, what you were saying is how you're disconnected in the city, can't see the horizon, sunset. I mean, now you're living it and breathing it. So, do a lot of people in Sao Paulo know about the Pantanal? How did you discover that?
Yes, not that much. So it's very interesting fact that you said because a lot of people in Brazil only know the Amazon as well.
Really?
If we talk about nature, is okay, let's go to the Amazon. But Pantanal is one biome that is not recognized. It's like an unknown place. People usually don't talk about it because it's in the middle of nowhere. But tourism is not that strong. I think it's stronger for the foreign people rather than Brazilians. Brazilians often don't know Pantanal, which is really awkward, really strange for us. And I did know, of course, we had soup.
Soup?
Soup, no, how, how it is. What a TV show that
Oh,
was
soap opera.
recorded. Soap opera,
Okay,
yes, soap
gotcha.
opera that was recorded in Pantanal. So by that time, people start knowing about Pantanal, coming in here just because of this soap opera. So it was the first time that people, Brazilian people, came in here. And I start knowing because of this soap opera, which is completely awkward.
That's so
Like you
funny.
don't know, you did biology and you don't know about the most perceived biome that we have in Brazil. It is completely awkward.
So they didn't, in school, they didn't teach about the Pantanal when discussing biology?
They do, but they don't give highlights. It's always the Amazon. The Amazon is the big biome that we have, the most popular one that people wanted to go. But Pantanal is not. It's always given aside, like being aside.
So you learned about this from a soap opera, and I'm guessing that was more of a cowboy show because this area is
It is
famous for cattle ranching, which we'll talk
Exactly.
about. But is that what the show was about, ranching out here?
Not only ranching, but it is really cool because mix a little bit of mystical creatures. So tells about the history of cattle ranching and the ranchers in here, but also how the people turn into animals.
Oh.
So we have a protagonist, a female woman that was becoming a jaguar by night, and another fisherman that was becoming an anaconda. So I think it was last year, and it was trending topics in Brazil. And then it is cool because it mixes these myths over here, because we have a lot of myths, of course, living in the middle of nature. Creatures come, we have a lot of stories that was told. And this soap opera is about this, about the mystical part of Pantanal. So what happened? I was searching for a job, and then my friend found one in LinkedIn, and she told me, I think you must try this because you've always been wanted to go to the nature. So give a try, give a chance, go in there, even if it's not for your area, biological science area. I would say yes. I want to go off my parents' house. I really want to live different things. I was like stuck in a part of life when you get stuck, when you get out of your college or out of university and you want to do something like different. And I've been living from São Paulo my whole life, so I wanted to change. And I said, okay, that's my shot. I need to go in there and see what happens. The worst that it can happen, I think it's the not a good place, and then I come back. But that's not what happened. And usually people say, don't go to Pantanal because you will fall in love and never want to come back. Never leave Pantanal. And that's what happened to me. I don't want to live in a long period of time.
I'm experiencing that right now. My flight's in maybe 3 hours, and I'm just like, I hate it. What were your first impressions when you came here?
Too hot.
Too hot?
Yes.
It is hot, for sure.
When I got off the car, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to live in here. It's so hot. But of course, to able to hear so many sounds and different sounds, like birds. We have so many birds. It's like almost like I don't know, but it is so loud. And I was like, oh, that's nature. That's actually sound of nature. So I was so happy with that.
What time of year did you arrive?
I came in May, so
that's dry season almost,
dry
right?
season, yes, it is.
And it gets hotter during that time just because of the lack of rain?
For sure. Almost 40 degrees, so really
40?
40
Wow.
degrees, yes. So it's super hot, almost boiling.
And if you can remember, talk us about your first week here, your first impression was that it was hot. You had this like overwhelming sound of nature. How are you settling into it? Do you remember that first week or two being here?
I remember I was completely lost, trying to make friends and like to share with people how life was in here. And I got, when I first came in here, it was winter. And we said, we usually have hot weather in here, but we have a week of winter. So when the temperatures goes to 9 degrees.
1 week?
1 week, only 1 week of winter, but it's super cold for us.
9 degrees for those in Fahrenheit back in the States, just under 50 degrees. I mean, I can't even imagine it being that cold here.
Exactly. I couldn't imagine. So I was not prepared for that.
But 1 week?
1 week.
What is that week? How is that?
How is that? Exactly. I don't know.
Is it August that happened?
It was actually in June. By the beginning of June, it was completely cold, and I didn't brought jackets or blankets or everything like that. So I have to borrow. I had to make friends, and please, can someone borrow me a blanket? I really need something. And it was actually really fun to see the guests, all them covered by a lot of jackets and gloves and everything. I was like, in Pantanal gets so cold like that. I'm not prepared for that. So it's fun because we have extremes of temperature. So we go from 40 degrees up to 9 in 1-2 days. So it is kind of, yes, completely different from São Paulo where I came.
Were you scared when you first got here of the animals or the wilderness in any way?
I know. I was completely. I fall in love with that. So when I came in here, yes, I forgot about it. When I just came, I was with a driver that me and other 2 girls that was going to work in here came by this car, and we came by night. So I was only hearing things. I was not seeing everything. But when we crossed the entrance of the farm, we got a radio, because in here we have radio, so we communicate every time with the radio. And I remember a radio saying, okay, we have a Jaguar near the entrance. And I was like, oh my God, I just came in here and I'm seeing a Jaguar. And I did not properly see the Jaguar because it was far away and we had a safari car going in there. But I remember seeing the flashlight focused on a moving thing, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I just came in here 5 minutes and I'm already seeing a jaguar. And I was like, this was actually the entrance, the big entrance for me. And I was really excited to live and see all the animals. So I was not scared at all. I was super excited.
That's such a great omen.
Exactly.
Because
It was.
we've seen a bunch. We'll talk about it, but they're pretty elusive. So that just to be there when you arrive, I could see how that would get you pretty pumped up.
Yes.
That's so cool. Well, tell us, for people that don't know what this area is, you were describing it really well about how this area is kind of where other ecosystems merge from different directions. So can you just walk us through that a little bit for people that don't know about the Pantanal?
Yes, for sure. So Pantanal is actually our smallest biome in Brazil. We have other that are much bigger, such as Amazon. But we are in a very privileged location because we are in the middle of Brazil and we get influenced by all the other biomes that are surrounding Pantanal. So at north, we have the Amazon, of course. So we get influenced by the vegetation, the animals that can easily come from Amazon to Pantanal. We have the Brazilian savanna. We have the Atlantic rainforest. We have the Pampas. And we also have another biome called Chaco that is in other countries such as Bolivia and Paraguay. So we are surrounded by all these biomes. And Pantanal is, we say that is a mosaic, a mix of all of the vegetation that surrounds us, all of the animals that surrounds us. So actually it's really a privileged location. We get influenced by all the things that happens in all these biomes. So if don't rain in the Brazilian savanna, probably we won't have the wet season in here. So we are linked to these biomes. So it's really important for us to understand and to protect this biome because otherwise it won't last too many years. But we are in a very privileged part of Brazil. So this is really important for us.
And the lodge we're at now, or the farm we're at now, talk to us a little bit about the history, not only here, but in the region. So originally this was all wild, obviously, and then people started coming here for cattle ranching, right? But that was a long time ago.
A long time ago, yes. We have this tradition in here. So in Pantanal, it is a place that is really, it was not all colonized by Portuguese. When they came in here, it was an unknown place, a wild place. Still it is, but less than it was in history. But of course, they only get to place their things and to colonize the higher lands because it was not flooded. Imagine, the Portuguese came in 50...
Just before the 1500.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 15th century.
Exactly. They coming and seeing a wild place all flooded, and they could not enter with full of jaguars, full of animals, with local people, indigenous people. So they just got to colonize the higher lands because it was more easy. And in that places, they established farms where they started the cattle ranching. But of course, during that time, they started colonizing the lower lands where they got flooded with help with the indigenous people. And then, of course, it is a traditional for doing the cattle ranching. So since ever they saw that it was a good place to put the cattle because it is a flat land, so it is easier for the cattle to eat, to establish, and have this production. So it is the most famous activity in here. It is the cattle ranching. But of course, in the history we can see, and you're probably going to ask, but we have like a big fight over cattle ranchers and people who wants to conserve and protect nature because cattle ranching was the main activity in here, and we got jaguars that were surrounding and killing some of the cattle, and this is a big fight and traditional fight.
Yeah, I'll definitely ask about that. Just a couple side notes. Just the Spanish and the Portuguese, they were both exploring here in the 15th century, and I just looked it up. In 1494, they signed a treaty to where Brazil became a part of Portugal, and the Spanish let it go. And you guys have an awesome map. I think it's in the main lodge room where it's talking what you said about all the high peaks in this old map, and then it just has this whole area that it's in Portuguese. I forget the translation, but it's just like unknown wild
Unknown,
area. And I love that. I love those old maps. Brazil is huge. Again, not to be a nerd, but Brazil is the 5th largest landmass in the entire world, like by country, by size. Like I had no idea about that.
It is. We say that it's almost like a continent. South America, it is big, but Brazil, it can hold more than I don't know how many countries inside the territory of Brazil. So we get so many different cultures, accents, people, animals. That's why we have such a great and big biodiversity. It is a continental area.
Top 5 countries in the world. Ready? By size. Number 1, Russia. Massive. We're going to do it in miles. I know you're kilometers, but
Yes, for sure.
6 million square miles, Russia.
Okay.
Number 2, Canada. Less than 4 million square miles. China, number 3.
China, yes.
Just smaller than Canada. U.S., number 4. Just a little bit smaller than China, just by like 1 million square miles. And then Brazil, 5. Actually, 33,200,000 square miles. So almost the same size as the U.S. We don't realize that in the States at all, just because the shape's different.
It's different, exactly.
But wow.
It is big. So you can imagine, like, knowing all Brazil, it's almost impossible. You have so many years to explore, so many areas. But it is huge.
Okay, so let's go back to this initial fight with the ranchers and the Jaguars. So we were out in the field today, and your colleague told that very moving story about how when he was young, I think when he was 9 or 10 or maybe a teenager, he started hunting jaguars. And that was his job, to go out. He was hired by these ranchers to go out, kill the jaguars. And now he's a guide here and doing the conservation. I think that was just such a moving story and really a good way to relay the history and how things have changed around here.
Yes, that's true. So I always give him as example because this story is the best for us to understand how the mind can change, the mindset changes, and it changed in Pantanal, thankfully. But yes, he was hunting for a lot of years, more than 20, if I'm not wrong. But because it was the only way that he found to get a job in here by the time, and he started doing it, and of course has a part that he says that gives him adrenaline, and he was really rushed by all the adrenaline that was taken by doing that. But of course, a lot of people did because it was the only way to survive by that time, because it paid well, and he didn't get a chance to go to school, he was saying. So it was a job that at that time was okay for him. But of course, he met his wife, and it's really moving that he told that when he started knowing her and let her know about his job, he was like, I'm not doing the right thing. Because so many animals are being killed by me, but why? You see, it's so sad to realize that I'm killing just because someone is paying me, and what I'm doing exactly.
You're an assassin.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that's that's really got me emotional because it is. I don't know if he realized that, but at a time, yes. But when he said he was constantly dreaming about it, so about killing more and more jaguars, and it was like a prize for them, to the hunters, saying, "Oh, I killed more than 50 jaguars," and he was like, "Yes, I've killed 2 or 3," and then it was almost like a competition by that time. But it's really grateful to listen to him right now that he realized that it was not a good thing, and now he's like trying to conserve the jaguars. He works with the jaguars and seeing the signs of it. So it's really touching.
I thought one of the most moving parts was when he said that he had just killed a jaguar and he kneeled down beside it. And I think he said, it was in Portuguese, so I wasn't getting all of it, but for the first time, he ran his hands over the fur of the jaguar, and he just sort of had this moment of realizing what a beautiful creature it was, and it started to change his mind. That's so cool. So do you meet a lot of people like that used to have this anti-jaguar mindset, but now are or changed?
Yes, a lot of them. In here, he is the our example, but of course, in all of Pantanal, I think the main mindset is changing. People are getting awareness of how it's valuable and how it's much better to keep their lives and not to hunt to sell their fur or just kill by killing it. And it's really grateful for us for them to realize that. And it's really important. I think it's part of our job to make people not just came in here in Pantanal to see the beauty, of course, the animals, but to realize how important is this biome, how important the animals are to be alive, and then how important the conservation projects. They do a lot of job like helping to increase this population because it is important, so we need to protect them.
I was talking to Roberto yesterday, and he was telling me a little bit about the origins of his idea here, and he said he drew a lot of inspiration from Africa. And Africa seems like it had gone through this a little earlier than you guys have, poaching issues over there as well with all the different animals, and them putting a financial spin on the idea of conservation. Unfortunately, humans, we always need financial motivations to do
Yes,
things,
exactly.
unfortunately. But so he was saying he brought a lot of that, and I see that here in the lodges, the way it's designed, and then just in the way you guys operate. So he was also saying that cattle ranching is still the main business in the Pantanal, so tourism is pretty new coming up. Can you talk about how, like, what you've seen change here over the last year? Do you feel like it's still moving in the right direction?
Yes, I do. I think we have a lot of guests that comes from all over the world, and it's really nice and interesting to notice that people came in here not and don't even know about the cattle ranching. They came from the tourism, so it's really important that we are becoming this center of how things have to be, and inspiring people to give donations, to support these projects, and to support this kind of lodge, this kind of ecotourism that is so important for us, especially in Brazil, because we don't have a lot of places such like in Africa. They have a lot of safaris. In Brazil, Pantanal is the main place to do this kind of activity. So I think also Brazilian people are starting to notice the importance of this kind of tourism that respects the environment and gives consciousness and awareness about the place we are and how important this biome is to Brazil. So I've seen that it's becoming more and more, it's increasing the tourism in here. So I think it's a really interesting place to be right now, Cayman. It's Roberto Clabin idea of creating this refugee, this ecological refugee, is amazing. And I think he inspires a lot of other people and other lodges to follow this path.
Yeah, how many lodges are there in the Pantanal? Do you know, more or
No,
less?
I don't have idea, but I do know that we have some of ecological lodges, other ones, other farms that do this kind of activity.
Maybe a dozen others,
A
20
dozen.
others, something like this?
I
One or
think
two dozen?
more than 20 for sure.
Well, that's great. That's
Yes,
like super progress.
exactly.
Okay, so talk us through a little bit about the experience when a guest comes here, because I don't think you can do this kind of safari anywhere else in Brazil that I've seen. The Amazon's just too thick,
Yes.
and this really is a classic African safari experience. And the schedule is very interesting, I think, because most people, when they travel, they're used to spending the whole day out, and here it's much different. So talk about what a typical day is like here for a guest.
Okay, so when you come in here, we usually start our morning really early. So usually by 5:30 we get off in the safari morning because we say that is the best time for us to spot animals, especially because in here is super hot. So by the early morning it's more fresh. So it is a great time to see animals, to spot giant anteaters, jaguars. And then we go in this morning safari for about 3 hours, trying to spot every single animal out there. We talk a lot about the landscapes, the story of people, and it's amazing to see the sun rising. You got to see this, so it's really amazing to get to hear the sounds of the birds waking up. So it's really amazing to be in this part. So we usually do this morning safari. We get to see a lot of animals, hopefully jaguars around, giant anteaters. And then we come back to the lodge. And then you guys, the guests, have breakfast, have all the morning time to rest a little bit. And then we get another safari in the afternoon, right at 4 p.m. And then usually it's good by that time because we have the dusk, and the dusk moment is always a good time to spot jaguars. So we've seen jaguars by that time because usually is the time that they get more active. So it is the perfect time to be near a lake or a water hole because they are always walking around trying to get some water. And then it's really amazing because a lot of people came in here to see jaguar, of course, is our star, but we get so many mammals and reptiles and amphibians in here. It's amazing because we get to see a lot of everything and every species we have. I love birds, so to me it's always a gift hearing all the birds and trying to recognize each one of them. And I see that the guests that came in here just fall in love by the first time. They just got out and oh my God, this is a truly gift to be able to be in here and see everything, see the sunset, doing the safari and feeling the warm wind that usually bothers some of the people, feeling the mosquitoes. But it's really nice.
One of the greatest gifts, I think, is seeing the sunrise and the sunset in the same day for multiple days in a row. Most people on Earth do not do that. They're not, maybe they're in touch with one of those because they get up early or they watch a sunset. But as you say, many people who live in cities don't see either ever. So I think that in itself is just a real treat. A couple guide questions, because people, they come here, they want to see the jaguar, they want to see the anteater, they want to see the big five. Right? Tell us about the big five.
Okay, so in Africa, they have the big five. Right here, we created our big five, so big five mammals. So, of course, the jaguar is our biggest of all. Not actually the biggest because tapir are the biggest one. So, I don't know if you know tapir or tapir. It depends the accent, but it's our biggest mammal in South America, the heaviest one. Uh, Kind of a mix of a rhino and horses, completely different from everything you already seen, but really cute. This is one of the tapir. Also we have the jaguar, the giant anteater, that to me is my favorite animal ever.
Why?
Because I also got a tattoo from him.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that before.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes, I do love them because especially after the fire, I think I got really touched because he was one of the most affected animals in here because he's slow and he got a very inflammable fur. So imagine we found lots of them dead.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I was really moved and touched when I first saw one after the fire, and I saw one of a mom carrying her baby in her back. So this is actually my tattoo, and actually my wallpaper of the of my cell phone. But it is one of my favorite animals ever because they are so really so different from everything.
You took that photo?
I took that
Oh,
picture.
that's,
Yes.
they're so bizarre looking.
Yes, they are completely strange and unique, you see. So
They just, their shape is so bizarre. Like so thin. I mean, their head, obviously, but just their whole body. And you
The
said
whole
half the
body.
body is tail?
his tail, exactly. So you have, yes, half of his body is only the tail. So to predator seems like it is a huge animal, but actually is half of his size.
Is that why they're like that? Just to appear bigger,
Yes.
more or less?
Yes, sorry for that.
No, it's okay.
But yes, actually it is. So it is a kind of camouflage for them to give to other animals seeing them as a threat. So much bigger animal, I won't come. I won't try nothing with them.
But your colleague showed me a video of a jaguar and the anteater just walking side by side on that bridge over there. So they don't fight?
Yes, usually they fight. So I saw this video and I was like, what is happening in there? I was emotional seeing that because I never thought they were walking side by side like friends. We are okay with each other, the presence of each other. But it was really uncommon usually they fight. So it is a strong fight because, of course, you can imagine Jaguar got really strong, and anteater can defend themselves with their strong claws, and usually they give their hug of death. So they try to do it with the Jaguar.
Is that their defense? They give a hug?
Yes, you can imagine, but not a hug in a good way. So they stand by their 2 feet and they got really bigger than they usually are because they are walking. And then they just try to hug the predator to put their claws and defend themselves.
But then the jaguar probably just bites them, right?
Yes, exactly. So you can imagine the fight between a jaguar and a giant anteater.
What does that work against? What predators would the anteater do that to that it would
Yes,
be
would be
successful?
jaguars, cougars. We have cougars in here, not very common, but it could be. Probably an ocelot, but an ocelot is much smaller. But any animal that tries to come in his way, he would do that. Of course, a human. We have humans,
We're the worst.
incidents,
Yeah,
yes,
we're the
that
worst.
tries to hug the giant anteater. No, it's not a good hug.
You should just let those people do it.
Yes,
Natural
please.
selection, it's work.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the tapir, the jaguar, the anteater, and what's the fourth?
The capybara.
The
That
world's
is-
largest
yes,
rodent.
Exactly. And the most cutest one also.
They're so bizarre looking.
No, really? Do
well,
you think?
I do, yeah, because they kind of have a head that looks like a horse almost.
Yes.
But then it has this beaver kind of body. I mean, bigger than a beaver, but just that way. And the way they're half in the water, almost like a hippo, like a Brazilian hippo.
Yes.
'Cause they're
But cutest than a hippo.
super cute
Yes.
and way not as dangerous, for sure.
Exactly. But they are all around and they are like almost our icon of Brazil. Everyone comes in here to see the capybaras. It's impressive. Of course, for us, we are already related to that. We always see them. But it was really funny to me by the one time that we had Japanese guests in here and they didn't want to see the jaguar. Of course, they wanted, but not that much. They came in here to see capybaras. So the whole day, they just wanted to stay around capybaras. And then I realized, okay, capybaras are really important. Yes, because we're so used to having them all around all the time we see them. But they are so cute and they are the biggest rodent that we have in the world. So it's impressive.
Why did they want to see them so bad? Did they see them on a show or something?
Yes, I think I researched that in Japan they have some bars, capybaras bars or coffees that they create these capybaras and then you can have a cup of coffee while you pet a capybara. So it's really common in Japan and got viral. So.
Wait, coffee while you actually pet it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yes, have you not known?
I have not seen that.
In Brazil we don't have it still, but
I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of very strange.
Yes, I think it is also. Having a coffee, okay, but petting the capybara, not the best way to handle this.
So, do you mind if I turn this off?
No,
It's just blowing on me. If it
please.
gets too hot, we can turn
Please.
it back on. But it's like right on me. Thank you. Okay, what's the fifth one?
Okay, the fifth one, jaguar, anteater, capybara. The marsh deer, yes. Deer,
We
yes.
saw one of them.
We
So
saw,
beautiful.
Yes, we saw the female, right? It is. They are so huge. And in here, we don't get to see too many deers in Brazil. Of course, in Pantanal, we are in a privileged place. But in Brazil, actually, we don't have too many deers. In North America, you do have more.
So many.
For us, it's impressive to see a big deer with their antlers. I never seen one except in Pantanal. So it's really nice to be able seeing these animals in here.
You have guests. You've already mentioned a few times. People come with the expectation of seeing the jaguar or the capybara or whatever. There, is that stressful for you as a guide because you're getting in the van and you don't know what you're going to see, right? You're not sure what's going to be out there, and then these people are like, "Hey, all right, let's go see this or that." How does that feel for you?
Yes, I think the most difficult part of it is to arrange people like everyone get their expectations. So sometimes we have bird watchers in the car, sometimes we have people who want to see only jaguars, and then we have to try to please everyone. So that's a little bit difficult for us. But of course, when we are out in the field, people usually get more relaxed. So when they see a big mammal, of course, it is or the jaguar, they got more relaxed, more chilled. So when we got to see one of those, I say, "Oh, okay, now I can be a little more relaxed. Now I can show birds that people are going to love it." But for sure, it's really interesting because we have people from all over the world. So imagine one Japanese in the car and another Spanish and an Australian. It's a mix of cultures, of languages, and expectations also. But it's really nice. By the end of the day, we have stressful moments for sure, but I have more good moments than stressful ones.
Do you have people that get really anxious and are behaving strangely because they want to see a certain thing?
Yes, for sure. Yes, we do. I had, and we have to handle with that. So
Yeah.
it is.
Well, that's a skill.
Yes, it is. I have to develop this skill in here because it is really difficult. But I had like one guest that really wanted to see jaguars. And of course, we have seasons that we see more jaguars and other seasons that is more difficult. And for example, in the wet season, it's a little bit difficult because animals can get water and get food all around the farm. So they don't have to be in specific places where we have water. And then we were seeing only 3 jaguars in 1 week. For us, it's a small number. And then my guests were really anxious. He wanted to see the jaguar so badly. And he was complaining every time we got off, like, okay, you're showing me marsh deers, you're showing me giant anteaters, but I don't want to see them. I want to see only the jaguar. And we're like, I'm trying, but you see, we are in a natural place. We are in the middle of nature, in wild place. Of course, the jaguar will not be sitting waiting for us. And then by the end of the day we saw one and he got, okay, you got me everything I wanted, now you can show me everything. I was like, yeah. So sometimes we have people like that,
I can imagine that's
and
a
it's difficult
professional
to
hazard.
handle. Yes.
Yeah, it can be, but you're great at it, obviously. It must be the best feeling when you go out, because you're with the same group for a number of days, right? It's the same people, they stick with the same, we've had you for 4 days now. So it must be like the best feeling if you go out on day one, the first morning, and you see that jaguar right then, and you're just like, I can, like, what a pressure taken off versus going 2-3 days without seeing one. People start to get a little more frustrated as they know that their time is coming to an end.
Yes, this is the best we can get. So when we get to see a jaguar in the first time, in our first safari game drive, it is, oh my God, now I can relax. I can show everything. But of course, I think this is an easy part because when you got to see a jaguar in the first time, it is too easy for us. But the difficult part is to handle when you don't see nothing. So what you're going to say, what are you going to show, what stories are you going to tell people, how you're going to entertain these people for them not to get bored and tired and wanting to don't come to the safari. So that's our challenge. So I've been training also for this. Of course, it's difficult for us, but we have to have this. In Portuguese, we say jogo de cintura. So it's how to handle these difficult situations.
Well, we got very lucky. We saw 6 jaguars this week. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that part of it. It was cool, when we did that. But there's some awesome other animals, and some of the ones that I didn't expect, because birds, for example, it's like, okay, birds, whatever. But the birds here are amazing, especially for Americans. Like, we saw a toucan. For us, that is just like the epitome of a cartoon character. It's on the Fruit Loops box.
Yes.
Like, just we have nothing like that. So to see a toucan like that, and you had found the beak, and you brought and showed us the beak, and just how light that was incredible. And then I think my favorite bird was the red and green macaw.
Macaw, yes, we got to see. No, this is super rare. You got so lucky because in here it's not that common to see. We have, of course, the hyacinth macaw. There are the blue ones. But the red and green are so difficult to see in here. So you got a chance to see the couple flying really close to us.
But don't you think they're poorly named?
Red and green?
Yeah, because they're way more than red and green.
Yes.
There's
almost like a rainbow macaw. Red and green and blue.
It's absolutely. It's I can see in this picture red, green, blue, yes, white, black, yellow.
Rainbow, almost a rainbow.
So why are they called red and green macaws?
It's very funny that in English we just create some names of the birds based on some of their details. Of course, sometimes you get to see, yellow-tailed, but he has a beautiful red crest, and you're going to say about the yellow tail. So it is not a very common name, so we get to think of these names better.
Well, for marketing, I feel like when I
Yes.
told one of my friends talking to them, I was like, "Oh, I saw a red and green macaw." It just doesn't like describe. I was like, "No,
Describe
you have to look it
properly.
up what it looks like," because
Exactly.
they're like, "Oh,
The
cool, you
name.
saw a red and green bird, great." I'm like, "No, no, no, this is like super special."
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I didn't realize toucans were such like mischievous little guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like they steal. You were telling us they
Uh-huh.
steal all the
Hyacinth.
eggs from all the
Uh-huh.
other birds,
Especially hyacinth macaws
which are
eggs.
endangered, right?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So they are really bad.
Was
In that case.
was coming to an area like this
Mm-hmm.
and seeing really the circle of life,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see so much. You see these beautiful, majestic creatures, but all the time you're seeing them. I saw one of these hawks eating a little baby bird just out on the steps the other day.
Yes.
Really seeing the circle, the death, and the life. Did that make you feel a certain way? Like,
Yes, it makes me feel really strange, but yes, of course, I feel a little bit sad when I see some situations like that. Like I've seen a caiman eating a baby capybara, and to me, I was completely shocked by when I was seeing that because it was blood all over, and the mom capybara was looking for her child, and I was like, oh my God, who's going to tell her that her baby got murdered? But
oh, you saw the mom looking for the baby?
yes,
Oh,
yes, it was shocking for
wow.
me. I wanted to cry. But of course, then I realized that that is nature going on, and I'm such a privileged person to be able to see one of these scenes. This often we see in National Geographic documentaries, but I'm live seeing that, so that's really mind blowing for me. So I get to put in a balance. So it is bad, but it's also circle of nature. Caimans have to eat something. So if it's not the baby capybara, it will be another fish, another caiman. I don't know. But it's circle of life. But it's really overwhelming to see that.
Kind of makes you grateful for like the human situation we have. We
Yes.
don't really have all the times like we die are like our own doing, car
Exactly.
accidents, like nothing's eating us, luckily.
Yes, yes. And to see animals eating one another is completely bizarre, but really, I know, I really gives me adrenaline also seeing that. So seeing a jaguar hunting for me, it's the best of all. So I've seen a jaguar hunting a cattle, so a cow, and he was all over eating and chewing, so we could hear the sounds of breaking the bones. It was completely impressive to me. I remember not sleeping because I was so overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, I just saw a jaguar 2 meters away from me chewing a cow and blood everywhere. But that's nature and so impressive. I loved by the end of the day seeing that scene.
It's a crazy feeling
It
that
is.
overcomes you. I
It
had a
is.
similar situation a couple years ago in Africa. I saw a cheetah eat a Thompson gazelle, and I remember same thing. Could hear the bones crunching, see the blood. I have this picture of the cheetah. I'll have to send it to you later, just with blood all over his mouth.
No, amazing.
And I remember people in the safari car. It was split.
Uh-huh.
Some of us were like, "This is amazing," and other people were
Horror.
horrified,
Yes.
like hiding their eyes, like, "Let's go, let's leave." And there kind of a little bit of a disagreement broke out whether we should stay or go. Do you see that when you
Yes,
guys
for
like, with your
sure.
guests?
We have some situations like that, so it's difficult to handle because yes, some of them are like, I'm not paying for this. I don't want to see like a murder going on just in front of me. And it is difficult for us because we want, of course, me as a guide, I really want to see how it turns up. But yes, at the end, we have to see what the guest wants and try to conceal that. But I had one time that was really interesting that I got a guest that the jaguar just went really close to the car and the guest was like trying to escape from it. She was so frightened, so afraid of everything. And I thought she was having a panic attack. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And, oh my God, I think I'm. She couldn't even speak, and I was like, "Okay, let's go off because you're not doing well." But sometimes this happens because people are not used to this kind of seen. So it is really shocking for everyone.
For me as a guest, one of the coolest things is watching you and the driver because, again, it's not a zoo. So you've seen a lot of things, but I can tell when we're really seeing something special by your guys' reaction and how excited you are.
Yes.
And of course, as you say, the seasons here are always different. So you may have seen a jaguar in one situation, but you're always seeing them in different areas and different things. So that kind of keeps your job exciting, I would think. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, are you just really stoked to go out, or does it become a little bit of a routine for you?
No, never. So I always tell that each day in here is completely different. We can see jaguars, the same jaguar, but they are always in different situations, different behaviors. So everything changes, and it's really amazing for me to experience and to go out every day and see completely different things with different guests. So it's the whole thing is different. So it's a different experience, and I think that what makes my job so fun and so interesting. So because I'm able to experience different things every time I go out.
It's cool because you're balancing predictability, which would be like safety, making sure the guests are happy, whatever, protecting them from the elements, with unpredictability. Because you're like, we don't know what we're going to see. We might this, might that, da da da, and the weather's different. So that's neat. But your lifestyle here is kind of crazy. So just to talk a little bit about that. Again, we're in the middle of nowhere. The closest city, quote unquote, is
City.
1 hour from here, right? Via slow dirt road. You guys all live in a village,
Yes.
which is fenced in,
Yes, it is.
right? And how many people live in that village?
Around 120 people that work in here. So we all of them, all of our staff lives in here, works in here. So we get this village where we have houses. So some of them lives in big houses with families, but the guides have his own rooms. So we have like a college student life because we get to share a lot of things, and we get to make friends in here. So it's really good because we have to have a community in here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live so many years in here. But it's interesting.
I bet.
Yes.
Because you guys, and us included as guests, we're not allowed to go outside the fence, right? There's only one place I found that you can go outside the fence here. I don't know if you know where that is.
No, where? No.
I'll have to tell you later.
No.
Yeah, I found one
Really?
break where you can get outside
In the
fence.
lodge? Oh my God, you
Yeah.
have to tell me that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still safe, but where you can stand outside the fence and it's all good. So I'll tell you later. But anyway, you're not allowed to go outside the fence. And you guys as employees too, you can't walk between the lodge and your home. You have to drive between. So, I mean, it's not, but it's a little like a prison. Like you can't. You're lucky because I feel like for you, you're the guide. So you're on the safari car all day. You're out and about talking to some of the other people that work here, like the hosts. She was just like, yeah, I work here in this little compound, and then after my shift, I get in the car. They drive me the mile up the road to the village, and then I'm in there, and you can't really leave. Do you see people just go crazy? Like,
Yes, I was going crazy when I used to work in
oh yeah, because you were a host before.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So
I mean,
I got this feeling that you're saying because in here we joke that we are in an inverted zoo because the animals are spread around and we are trapped in this little cage. So it's completely different.
that's true.
So.
Yeah.
But of course, I right now as a guide, I can go off every day and go out in the field. That's really good for us being able to experience the field. But who works in the hotel stays kind of trapped. So we go off of the hotel and go strictly directly to the village and staying there. So we only go out in our days off. So usually we have to have other kinds of entertainment in there for us not to get crazy.
Yeah, what do you guys do for fun?
We do barbecue, we have pizza night, so we have a sharing living room. So we usually watch TV shows together, play some games. What else? We have a gym also. We have a swimming pool, so sometimes we give pool parties in there. So it's really
Do you
nice.
guys ever sneak out at night or?
Out of the fence?
Yeah.
I've never, but I heard some of them. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I don't. But
I'll get those stories later.
yes,
That's
yes.
fine. Tell us, you mentioned something about an armadillo today that is causing a ruckus in the village. Can you tell us
Yes,
about that?
yes, for sure. So we have our village that is fenced in, but of course we have some animals coming inside because they can dig and just come into our village. So we have foxes, the crab-eating fox, that is almost our pet, our wild dog, and we have armadillos. Armadillos are completely different because I never saw one of those before coming here. And they are so cute but also so messy, and they just can sneak out and they can enter places. They are really they start getting used to the human presence, and they learn how to open doors, how to open fridges. And they were messing around because we had like this shared kitchen where we have our fridges. And of course, everyone buys some of the groceries, chocolates, and everything from supermarket. And then some of the food were disappearing, and we were fighting over this. Who ate in my snacks or my chocolate? And then we didn't find out who was it. And one day we entered in our kitchen, and there was an armadillo, quite a messy, oil everywhere, flour everywhere in the ground. And then we found an armadillo inside the fridge, just jumping and catching all the food that he could get. So it was. I have this video after I
Oh,
can
you do?
show
Oh,
you.
please show me that.
Yes,
That's amazing.
because it's unbelievable. We had to tell everyone that it was the armadillo, otherwise no one would believe us. Like the armadillo is eating my chocolate. No, no, definitely not.
It definitely sounds like college dorm
It
kind of
is.
life.
It is.
But you're really close, but all together. So some good days, some bad days, but mostly fun. Does everyone end up dating each other
For
or?
sure, weddings happening here.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have people dating, breaking up. It's almost like a reality show. So I don't know if you already watched Big Brother.
Big Brother.
Big Brother.
Okay, yeah.
We say that in here is the Big Brother of Pantanal.
Is there like a mango tree everyone meets under? Like,
No.
you know what?
No, not that I know, but
Okay.
usually things happen a lot. So you can imagine because we are all stuck in the same place. So people start dating, having children in here. It's very common also to create families and raise families in here. So it happens a lot.
Wow. When people leave, they usually go for the big city, or do they?
Yes.
What do they do to?
It depends. If the person wants some nature, because we have a lot of places and cities next to us that are full of waterfalls and bushwalks. So usually adventurous people going there, but who wants to live the city like me? I miss so much going out in parties and bars. So I when I can, when I have my days off, I go to Campo Grande. That is the big city that we have near here. So I can get a delivery food. I can eat some hamburgers or
Yeah. What do you crave? Is it
pizza.
like that kind of stuff?
Sushi, Japanese
Sushi.
food. No, I love it. So I miss so much. I go to the city just to eat sushi.
I
Of
love
course,
that.
not only for that, but mostly for that.
But you guys eat pretty well here, because my understanding is you're eating the same thing that we do, right?
No,
No?
no.
Oh, I
I
asked someone what
wish.
happens with because there's a buffet for lunch or brekkie, and
Mm-hmm.
someone said that the leftovers go to the village. Not true? Oh.
Who said that?
I'm not telling you. My sources told me that. That's not true?
No, actually, some of that goes to in here, to the lodge, to people who work in the lodge. But our restaurant in the village is another food, another cooker. So it could be because the leftovers are going to go to the trash. So
I
please,
hope not, yeah.
yes, kind of. But of course, we miss like fast foods or pizza, something that we cannot cook in here. Because usually we can buy some of the things, but sushi, I cannot do it. So I have to go to the city to eat that kind of thing.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for spending some time. I think I got to go because, yeah, we got 1 hour till we go. But thanks for spending some time. What would you say, just as a closing thought? You mentioned the different seasons. There's a better chance of seeing things certain time of year. What do you feel is the ideal time to come down here?
I think by July. July, yes, because it's before the season of fire, because we can have some fire, especially in the dry season. Uh, but it's the time that we can see more than 10 jaguars a day. We can complete the big five in one morning. It's completely overwhelming, yes.
And that's because the water has condensed into certain areas, and the
Exactly.
animals have to go to those
Have to
spots.
go. So we go to water lakes, to sorry, to water holes, and then usually the animals are in there because it's the only source of water. So we get to see three jaguars in one water hole. We got to see tapirs swimming, and a lot of things happening at the same time. So it is a really good moment to spot this activity. So
I'm glad you mentioned that again, because I forgot. You guys had the big fire last year.
yes.
It covered a lot in the U.S. media. I remember reading about it. That was in August, you said?
Yes, beginning of August.
Okay,
Yes.
and we went through a lot of those areas today.
Yes.
You can barely tell. It is amazing how quickly the vegetation has grown. Like, we have bad wildfires out in the west, but they're dry pine forests. So you see the devastation for years before anything recovers. It's been 6 months. The only thing you can tell are some of the older trees that still have the burn marks. All, like, I mean, I'm talking like 8 feet of vegetation has grown back. That's insane. That's crazy.
We say that Pantanal is a resilient biome because he has this capacity to recover quickly. Of course, there will be a time that there's no turning point, but it has some adaptations. Like the trees has these strong trunks that usually doesn't burn. This is a biome adapted to the fire because the fire has been historical. Not only right now it's getting worse, but it's the history of Pantanal, of Brazilian savanna also. So the nature can adapt to minimize this impact. So it's really interesting that noticing that it can recover really quickly. But yes, we have to try out our efforts to doesn't burn anymore because we'll get a time that nature will not be able to recover.
Well, thank you so much for making
I
this week so fun.
appreciate.
It was really amazing place to explore and really blew my mind. So thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
very
you sharing some
much.
stories.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you very much. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Luiza. Thank you so much for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, you may enjoy our previous episode, Just Walk, and it's an introduction to Vienna. We sit down with the owner of Rebel Tours, a new walking tour company in Vienna, just to get a lay of the land and things you should know before you visit Vienna for the first time. You also may enjoy our next episode. If all goes according to plan, we are going to sit down with a world traveler, someone who sold their home about a year and a half ago, and has been traveling the world ever since. And we're going to talk to him about what it's like to actually do that, what it's like to live on the road for that long, and to just be country hopping pretty much every few weeks. So hope to see you there for that. In the meantime, you can find me online at Wake and Wander Will.
Yes, now I'm riding the terrain, flying high up once again. Got my crew sitting healthy and my boo living wealthy. Level 99, never settle in my mind. So I pedal and I climb up the pedestal and find almighty weapon. So I calm lightly step into the castle. Satchel, tackled, wrestled down the corridor where I'm grounded through the floor. Roundhouse into my core, down, out, and through the door. Sword down at my side, I gotta round up and ride. Face boss, break jaws till I take off. Face off, stop and swing my serious strike. This is it, take the title, disappear in the night. To the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm hit the whole wide world. Slay the boss in the castle when we cross final battle. Then I walk out, travel to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm hit the